You've probably seen videos like this before. Women being arrested in poor areas of China for engaging in illegal activities. These shocking images go viral and feed a distorted view of what's really happening there. But is all of this actually true? We're going beyond the images circulating on social media. We're going to explore what the internet doesn't show clearly, the reality of slums, or rather poverty zones, in China and Hong Kong. You'll see that, even though they're geographically close, these two regions deal with inequality in completely different ways. This video isn't about politics, it's about the contrast between appearance and reality, between the ultra-modern China shown in ads and the forgotten alleys where many people are still struggling to survive. When we think of slums, the classic images usually come to mind: makeshift shacks, narrow streets, violence, and neglect. But in China, the reality is quite different, and at the same time, surprising. There, the closest thing to slums are the so-called urban villages, or Chenggongchun, which literally means villages in the middle of the city. They didn't emerge from extreme poverty, but from rapid urban growth. Imagine small rural villages that, over the years, were swallowed up by gigantic cities like Shenzhen, Guangzhou, and even Beijing. The result? Entire neighborhoods with improvised architecture, packed buildings, exposed wires, narrow streets, all surrounded by skyscrapers and futuristic shopping centers. These villages still exist for one simple yet complicated reason: bureaucracy. The original landowners, usually farmers, retain their rights even after urbanization. This creates a legal gray area where the government can't simply demolish or redevelop as it pleases. And while major cities modernize rapidly, these villages become true time capsules. It's as if China's rural past got stuck in the middle of its urban present. What you do find there is precariousness, yes, but without the chaos often associated with slums in other countries. Videos showing women being arrested in poor areas of China for alleged sexual activity often circulate on social media, and many of them are used to fuel sensationalist narratives, reinforcing stereotypes of China as a repressive and miserable country. But do these videos show the full picture? First, it's important to state the obvious: prostitution is illegal in China. Officially, any involvement in such activities can result in arrest, fines, and even administrative detention without trial. For decades, the government has launched heavy crackdowns on brothels, illegal massage parlors, and even suspicious ads online. But that doesn't mean the problem has disappeared, especially in urban villages where state control is weaker and inspections don't always reach. There are reports of small businesses or apartments being used for this kind of activity. It's a reality pushed into the most forgotten corners of the cities, where vulnerable women see it as one of the few ways to earn a living. In Hong Kong, however, the situation is quite different. There, prostitution itself isn't illegal. What's prohibited are activities like running brothels, soliciting, or pimping. This has created a scenario where many women work alone in their own rooms, sometimes approaching tourists on the streets or at hotel entrances. And what drives someone to this? The answer is almost always the same: extreme necessity. In Hong Kong, where even a tiny cubicle is outrageously expensive, this activity becomes, for many women, the only way to pay rent and survive. But even behind this apparent disorganization, there's a well-established routine and even a self-sustaining economy that keeps these communities running. Urban villages are full of small, local businesses: convenience stores, workshops, barber shops, street vendors, simple restaurants, all operating informally with low prices aimed at migrant workers and low-income students. It's almost a parallel ecosystem where every service and product meets exactly what the local population can afford. Most of the people living in these villages are internal migrants, people who left the countryside seeking a better life in big cities. But even with China's economic growth, living in formal regulated areas is still far too expensive for them. So these villages end up being the entry point for those who need cheaper housing, even if that means giving up comfort, safety, and basic infrastructure. Curiously, even in these seemingly poor places, there are residents who earn good money. They're the former landowners who started profiting by renting out rooms and apartments to these urban migrants. You might see a five-story building thrown together haphazardly, but every floor is rented out, and the owner, still living there, makes more money than many formally employed people in the city. This creates a strange dynamic. Residents living side by side, some just trying to survive, others profiting from uncontrolled urban growth. And all this happens in a gray area where the government turns a blind eye. Laws don't quite apply, yet the entire city depends, directly or indirectly, on these spaces. Many live in tiny rooms, share bathrooms with several families, and face power outages, water shortages, lack of garbage collection, and near total isolation from state social services. The most striking thing is that all of this happens just minutes away from some of the most developed urban centers on the planet. It's as if there were two Chinas, one shown in commercials and corporate videos, and another hiding in the narrow alleys of forgotten villages. If China's urban villages are already hard to imagine, Hong Kong takes the situation to a completely different level. After all, we're talking about one of the richest and most modern regions in the world, with one of the most expensive real estate markets on the planet, and paradoxically, also one of the places where the most people live in inhumane conditions. The name says it all: coffin homes. Tiny wooden or metal compartments, usually less than 2 square meters, where a person sleeps, stores their belongings, and sometimes even cooks. Yes, all in the same space. There are cases where entire families share a single room separated by curtains or boards in overcrowded buildings on the verge of structural collapse. These subdivided flats emerged as an informal solution to Hong Kong's housing crisis. With real estate speculation out of control and wages that don't keep up with the cost of living, many people simply can't afford a regular apartment. Unlike mainland China, where poverty hides in the alleys of urban villages, in Hong Kong it squeezes between multi-million-dollar buildings. In mainland China, poverty has decreased rapidly over the past few decades. The country has lifted hundreds of millions of people out of extreme poverty, an achievement worth acknowledging. And yet, urban villages still exist. They're a stark reminder that economic growth doesn't reach everyone equally. While some cities build skyscrapers at breakneck speed, entire communities live on the margins with limited access to infrastructure and public services. On the other hand, Hong Kong never faced the kind of extreme rural poverty seen in China, but there, inequality became a chasm. It's a city with one of the highest per capita GDPs in Asia. Yet the number of people living in subhuman housing keeps growing, not because of a lack of resources, but because of a system where real estate profits outweigh the basic right to housing. And that's the paradox. In mainland China, you see structural poverty inherited from the past. In Hong Kong, you see poverty created by the present, the result of an unequal economy and policies that favor speculators over ordinary citizens. Both regions are, in their own way, portraits of modern inequality, but each shows a different face. One hidden behind the propaganda of progress, the other tucked away among the skyscrapers of a wealthy city.